And what is complementary is necessity is the mother of invention. When you realize that there is nothing but a wall behind you, you have no other option but to move forward. And since then, I learned not to look at the rearview mirror.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. We're experiencing a first on Be Bold Branding today. Well, this marks the first time we've asked a guest back to our show within weeks of their first appearance. We were so enthralled by Viren Mayani and his incredible stories and journey, and we're fortunate to have him back on the show again today. The first time he was on the show, he shared his story of growing up in India, watching Hollywood movies, and dreaming of moving to the United States. And he also shared some unforgettable experiences with the Dalai Lama, Mahatma Gandhi, Coretta Scott King, Michelle Obama, and several Nobel Laureates, to name just a few. So now we have a different set of questions for this servant leader.
Viren, welcome back to Be Bold Branding.
I'm just super excited and thrilled to be back. And thank you for having me again.
Yes, sir. Well, we had such a connection with you. And like Tanya said in the intro, we loved so many of your life experiences, and more importantly, like your approach to that, and then how you've dedicated your life to this servitude, really, and the things that it's the great blessings that you've brought on people and that it's brought to you in your life. So we just want to come and learn a little bit more about you.
Certainly, circle of life.
Yeah,
that's right.
So let's just jump right in here. Like, I know that you came to the United States to study. Did your family in India share that American dream with you, or was it a personal aspiration? And, how did their perspective on that influence your journey to come to the United States?
A brilliant and a personal question. I was raised in a very affluent joint family business enterprise. And if you recall a series from the past, and I know I'm too young to even have it recalled, Dallas. And if you remember the character JR.
Yes.
Well, my dad had 5 brothers, and my oldest uncle was JR. And because I lost him when I was just 13, and I told you in the last episode that I was balancing my debits and credits and trying to be street smart at the same time giving my 7th grade exams, I realized that by the time I would ascend to power, making business decisions, I would have had grandchildren. And then when an ethical leader passes away, everybody wants the largest slice of the pie they can. And so everybody was eyeing the treasure left behind by my dad, who was actually the king that built the entire foundation, the entire empire. So apart from my individual fascination of coming to US based on the Hollywood scenarios, I realized that I really didn't have a choice. If I wanted to make something of myself, I had to land to a place where I would have nothing. I repeat, nothing other than my will and my skill to build anything to survive and take care of my family. And that's what made me absolutely steadfast in applying for a master's program after my graduation. And mind you, I had no help. I had no knowledge of traveling overseas. I never left my house to go out of state by myself. And here I was leaving a nation, coming to a totally foreign country I had only seen in Hollywood movies. So I had no help in application process. I didn't even know, what TOEFL stood for and the exams I would have to take. But I will tell you that the USIS, which is the US India Center in Bombay, helped me more than anybody could. They guided me on how I could apply. They guided me on what all to be looked at when I'm applying in terms of universities, because realize there are more than 5,000 institutions in this country. How would you know where you want to go?
Right.
And so I used my street smartness again. I realized that I had my fixed cost fixed, i.e., to get my MBA, it is going to cost me X amount of dollars, which nobody's going to give me a student assistantship or any other scholarship, because at that time, and even today for the most part, MBA is a moneymaker for institutions.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to find the university that was least expensive but most open to accept someone like me. And because I graduated from a St. Xavier's Boys Academy, a Jesuit institution from high school, and then carrying on to college, I tapped into a Jesuit institution here, which is University of Scranton. And because of the Xavier affiliation, they did accept my application, and it was the lowest cost denominator. And to add to that, a typical MBA takes about 2 years. I finished it in 16 months.
Wow.
I
That's
went through all summers. I took 4 courses every semester. I just ran through it because I realized I had to have that paper. I had to have that MBA to get employed because a foreign degree would not help me convince them that I could do the job. Plus, acclimatizing myself to the work environment. So even while I was working such a heavy course load, I was working at the media center as a student assistant, which helped me, get paid, even though it was minimum wages, but taught me the culture, the work culture, and getting acclimatized. So there were so many gods helping me, little by little or enormously, and they were shaping my future, which was about to come. So despite my family's concern that me being the only son and me being the only support for my widowed mother, I had her blessing, so I didn't care what the rest of them thought. And so I came, as I said earlier, with a fan, a mattress, and a check to pay for my entire education.
That's such a great story. And it, you know why it's so poignant, Viren, to me, is because you clearly set forth a forward goal, and you went after that goal, and you planned everything you could plan for it, and then you accepted the things that the universe brings us that we can't plan for, right?
Absolutely.
The good and the bad usually just leading us to the good, in my way of belief and,
Absolutely.
and my past. It's happening to you, and are for you, not to you, right? These things that we think are obstacles are really just great learning lessons. But you set forth that plan, even down, like you said, to acclimatize yourself to the culture of what the work culture would look like, even after you got that degree. You didn't come to tarry. You came to you were serious about it.
Yes.
It's just, to me, it's a testimony to where there's a will, there's a way. Even when your beginning point is all the way across the globe on the other
And
side
what
of the
is
globe.
and what is complementary is necessity is the mother of invention. When you realize that there is nothing but a wall behind you, you have no other option but to move forward. And since then, I learned not to look at the rearview mirror.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that. I love it.
love it.
And you mentioned cultural, climatizing for the culture. What were the biggest cultural adjustments that you faced when you first moved to the US?
There are so many, but the few that immediately come to mind. First is punctuality. There is a norm with all the Asians, specifically Indians, and it's called IST, Indian Stretchable Time. So even when they say 9 o'clock, it usually means 9:15 or 9:30. Nobody shows up at 9 sharp. It's assumed that you're going to be late, and the host that is calling you is going to be late. So the first thing I learned is punctuality, because if the work slot was 9 to 12, they meant 9 to 12. So you rather show up 10 minutes early and be on time to start the clock at 9 o'clock versus start your journey at 9. So that was the first thing I learned. The second thing is the inbuilt honesty and humility. I have never seen a culture that is, for the most part, basic honest. They don't have a reason to fabricate. They don't have a reason to, like the Tusker, like I mentioned earlier, two teeth to show and two to chew with. What you see is what you get for the most part. And those that are devious, well, every culture is going to have those people who meant to do wrong, and they will continue to do wrong. And you just put them aside because they don't represent the masses. You have to focus on what the basic culture is. So punctuality, basic honesty, humility. The thank yous and the sorries, and the constant regard of treating you as a human and be treated as a human back, which is, and this is irrespective of the class you are in, irrespective of the haves and the have-nots. Just the basic respect is what I picked up on, and it was very impressive. In my earlier notes to my family, just kept narrating these issues. That it was not the amount of richness that threw me off. It was not the amount of success and the capital infrastructure. Super roads. Flip a switch to get warm water. Flip a switch to get your heat or cold. Nothing of that was mind riveting, other than the people. It just blew my mind of why this nation is so great, and why the basic DNA of people is so superb because of the environment.
Hmm.
Oh, that warms my heart, by
It
the way.
really does mine too, because there's a lot of Americans that don't agree with you on that, and that's sad, because I
Yes,
really appreciate your vantage point to that.
yes,
That overall Americans desire to do good, and desire to be good on the world
yes,
stage and
yes.
to each other. And so that's my prayer every day, and for peace and prosperity across the globe. But we could be a shining light here in America, and it's
And
nice.
if I can add to what you just said, Michael,
Please do.
another very, very strong element, which I should have captured earlier, is independence. It is automatically assumed that the kid grows out of high school, is going to leave the nest, just like birds and other paraphernalia do. The fledglings leave and they try to find life on their own. Whereas our culture is a joint family environment. You kids, sons especially, because the girls get married into a family and they leave, but call it because of the expensive real estate or whatever. Up until recently, the sons would continue to live with their families, with their parents, and it was a double-edged sword. Yes, the parents got the benefit of their kids looking after them, so you don't have that many foster homes or adult homes, if you will, to look after the seniors. But at the same time, the constant adjustment of living with a family. So that's another thing that just threw me apart, is that people as young as 17, 18 were leaving home to find life on their own. And that was a super kicker adventure DNA. That was, I had not experienced that. I had not understood that. And then I had a true respect for it. Having come from India, I thought that was a novelty. And here it was the norm.
Hmm.
Very interesting.
That is interesting, and I think that is also where cultures can learn from each other, because I do think that that America should have a little bit more of the family unit overall,
Yes. Yes.
that
No doubt.
other cultures have, where we take care of our elderly and our aging parents and stuff. It's something very
Yes.
big for me and Tanya as our parents get older, is being able to enjoy time with them. So it's interesting how that vantage point is there. We have a great independent streak that is awesome, and it helps create so many great things.
Certainly.
We could always remember family.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I am right there with you on punctuality. Now, I'd never
Mhm.
have lived on IST. I've always,
You break out in hives.
And
I
I hope you
would,
don't.
I would, I'm on time for everything, early, right? For everything. I always have
Yeah.
been, and I consider it a massive sign of disrespect when somebody's late.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's probably my own, that's probably a negative for me too. I shouldn't be so uptight about it, but I've
Oh
just was
no, it's
always
okay.
raised that way. So, well, and speaking of being raised a certain way, Viren, beyond the iconic figures that you talked about last time you were on the show, such as the Dalai Lama and people like that, were there everyday people in your childhood who modeled that servant leadership for you? Maybe your teachers, family members, community leaders?
Oh, 100%. And I would say family at large, because realize once my father passed away, um, I was just 13, and my sisters taught me how to shave. Think about that. It was not my friends, it was not my peers, but suddenly they were playing the roles of my adult, especially my not the oldest, because she had a love marriage, and love marriage was not something viewed very kindly, and especially not having a father. She actually eloped and married her husband. And so she left at a very young age. And so my sister after her actually became my older brother, for lack of a better term. She was already in college and was pursuing a degree in law. And then, she was basically helping me manage the books, staying afloat, making sure that we mind our business, for lack of a better term. So looking at her, and remember, most of the Western world is still challenged by giving women their rights, their right pay, the right respect, the right position in life.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, we were then a third world country. We were still an economically growing nation, but we had a woman prime minister for most of my adult life. Um, and I had four sisters who I never viewed as a lesser power. For me, that was Shakti, the embodiment of power. And so my older sister, by default, was my older brother. And she taught me how to shave. She taught me the do's and don'ts in life. So you ask me, who would I consider in the same level of all these foreign people and all these notable people? I would say my mother. She was only fourth grade educated, married very young, married a multimillionaire who passed away at a very young age at 42. She did not know how to manage the books or manage the business, etc. All she knew was to be a homemaker. And to me, this is what the value is of why that is so important. She instilled what she had: super culture, right ethics, do the right thing, eat on time, sleep on time, make sacrifices for your education, be academically smart, and basically grow my four sisters and me, despite not knowing a thing about how the world works, but to instill in us that you can be whatever you want to be. The world is fair. If you work hard, you will get what you do. Don't follow, don't despise your uncle or uncles, if I should say. Uh, the deeper the ditch they will dig, the more the space for their grave. And that is how we grew up. So uh, we were never jealous. We were never angry. We were not, you know, despiteful for what they did after father passed away. But instead, we decided to make life on our own. And so that's when I realized that, okay, if I have to make life on my own, it's not going to happen there. I'm going to need capital. I'm going to need seed money. I'm going to need some hand holding. None of that. The wall is my back. I can only move forward, land up in the good old USA, and life starts here.
Oh, and how beautiful, and what a place to start. That's
what
just
a great outlook too. And
such a testament to you, and thank goodness to the United States.
yeah,
Absolutely. No, it's
well,
it's important to understand why there are so many migrants just praying and slogging to make this home.
Yes.
And it's so sad when some of the natives take that for granted. I mean, they
I
have no
agree.
clue what it takes to go overseas and start afresh.
Agreed.
And the whole world is not Western Hemisphere. There are so many other countries that you have so many other fears, challenges, things to grope with. It's not easy.
Like what you're hearing? Hit that subscribe button and learn how you can change how you're seen and charge what you're worth.
No, it's not. And but it's nice that like you point that out, and because that is such a seed for the growth. I can relate to you a lot. My childhood, although being in America, my childhood was a lot the same way. My dad left us when we were young. My mom had never worked outside of just taking care of us, which is a very hard job, obviously, but taking care of the home, taking care of the kids. She had no experience, and she pulled her bootstraps up, showed us how to do the same thing. Those are very important life lessons that help you. But I find that when you have a mother like that, or a figure in your life that's teaching you, yeah, you've been, maybe your uncles have done this, maybe you've got, but don't let this affect you.
Right.
Don't be jealous, don't be bitter. That's because you're focusing on the wrong things. Focus
Yes.
on your own growth, and you're such an example of that. That we're just blown away by it, Viren.
Yeah, it's massive character.
Mhm.
that was brought about by your mother, for one person living by example, and lots of other people you've met throughout your lifetime, no doubt, also living that character by example. I want to shift the next three questions to a new friend of ours, Bob Berg, who
Mhm.
is one of the co-authors of the Go Giver book series.
Okay.
He was on our podcast a couple of weeks ago. It hasn't even been, it's not even published yet, so it'll be published in the next couple of weeks. But
Okay.
in honor of Bob, we ask these next three questions. Okay,
Sure.
what is the greatest gift you've ever been given?
Oh, that's a tough one. Having been raised in a very affluent family, and it's ironical I say that, um, material things did not matter to me because they were always given. The only flip side to that was in a joint family, you cannot have individual wants. So, what do I mean by that? So, if I said I wanted new clothes, then all the boys in the family, all the kids of all the uncles, all went shopping together and everybody got clothes. So, it was not like Viren only gets new clothes, all the kids gets new clothes. So, which was, you know, there was no intricate jealousy, so it didn't matter if I'm getting it and you are getting it too. Have at it, but then I get to have new clothes. But clothes is just an example. What I meant by material things did not really impress me. But in contradiction, after I graduated, getting my MBA, that was the first time my uncle and aunt flew my mother over to my graduation. That was the first time she stepped out of the country, for lack of a better term. And so when she was here, we decided to make a whole US trip with her. And we also went to Europe. So we traveled to larger states in US. We went all the way to Niagara Falls in Canada. And then we went to Europe, including Switzerland. And lo and behold, I fell in love with the classic Movado museum watch, which was extremely expensive. I think at that time it was about 750 US dollars. And I don't know why, even though we had traveled everywhere, I didn't care. I didn't buy anything. It didn't, my mother never wants anything materialistic. So it didn't matter. Besides, what would she wear? She wears a sari. So any dresses or, mufflers, India is not so cold. So she wouldn't care for anything. But because I mentioned it to her and she realized that this is the first time my son is actually asking for something. Now, mind you, she doesn't understand foreign exchange. She doesn't know how expensive is $750. And you're converting INR, which is the Indian rupee, to a US dollar, which is, expensive in terms of today's rate would be about 85 INR, which would be equal to one US dollar.
Mhm.
So if that gives you the conversion idea. Now I'm talking $750. And so I tell my uncle that, we are in Switzerland, we are in Interlaken, we are in a Movado shop. I won that watch and it's beautiful. And he says, no, we're not going to spend that kind of money. Okay. So being a young kid, dejected, even though I had just got my master's, was about to look for work after they left. I was kind of dejected. She couldn't see my dejection even for a minute because she hadn't seen me for 2 years. I was studying. She'd just come for my graduation and we were traveling the world over before they leave. And then I get back to real life, which is work. She relentlessly pursued my uncle throughout the stay we had in Switzerland that he's got to buy me. And then, unbeknownst to me, she had made that purchase happen. And before they left to go back home, she presented me the Muada watch, which I wear and I still treasure. Now now I'm talking 1988 and today. I have not let a scratch come on it. I wear it on very special occasions and I treasure it as if it's my life's biggest gift. Just because my mother got me something I wanted, which was extremely expensive, which nobody could understand, and she just couldn't see that moment's sadness on my face. Now talk
Mhm.
about that power, and talk about the motherly love, and talk about how much am I blessed being her son.
Oh gosh, how beautiful that
Great
is.
story.
What you just expressed is really the gift behind the gift. It wasn't
Yes,
the
yes,
material that thing that mattered. It was how that whole story came about and
Yeah.
her desire to give it to you
No matter
Mhm.
what. No,
no
and she
matter
didn't
what.
understand. She had no money in the sense she was not counting dollars. We were going as a family. So she knew that uncle and son were going to handle all the expenses. And she didn't understand the currency or the exchange rate, but just the fact that I was saddened by not getting what I just asked
Mhm.
was enough for her to lobby however long and whatever she had to do to convince the exchequer that my son's got to have that watch. And you talk about the gift is that mother. I mean, how much more dearing can a mother be? It's
Right.
just like a young toddler going to a candy shop and saying, I want that candy, I want that candy, I want that candy too, kind of thing, And
That
the joy that, emancipates on the kid's face just because the mother bought all that candy. And that's
mhm.
how I felt about the watch. And I cherish it today. In fact, uh, I wish I could show you, but the strap weaves through the dial. It's a uni watch, so even if the strap breaks, the watch is no good because the leather strap goes through the body of the watch. It's one piece, and
Wow.
since that day, I've been asking. I've gone to every Movado shop, factory ops, saying, can I get a replacement belt if forever this gets cut or destroyed, and there is no such thing. I just
Th
have to buy a new
Oh,
watch now.
wow. Yeah.
Making it much more valuable.
Yes.
Yes.
And no doubt your mother also saw how hard you had worked toward your
Yes.
goal and the achievement
Yes.
of that goal
Yes.
and a bright future that you had in front of you. And so all of that's really
I mean,
that's
that was her
really
graduation gift, for lack of a better term. And she didn't know, what to gift or what to give. But since I asked for it, she said, "Okay, you're gonna,
you're gonna
that's
get
what
it
you're
if
gonna
I
get."
have anything to say about it. That's great.
I love it.
Well, counter that. On the opposite side of that, what would you say is the greatest gift that you believe you've ever given somebody else? And it doesn't have to be monetary. What would you?
And that's a brilliant question. And also, I don't believe giving anything monetary is a gift. For me, it's just a reallocation of resources. If I have something extra and I give it to somebody who's needing it, um, big deal. I had it to give it. So
Mhm.
I don't consider that as a gift. Uh, but I guess the biggest gift or gifts, I would say, would be my time. And I say that
Mhm.
with a caveat because we have come a time in our lives today where we don't have time for anything. We don't have time to talk. We have time to text. We don't have time to shake hands. We send a shake hand emoji. Um, you know, writing letters has become out of fashion. It's obliterate. I mean, we shouldn't email.
Mhm.
Um, just look at how our lives have changed, and all the time we just say we don't have the time, even though, as I said in the last episode, is the small I, right? We feel that we are so indispensable that if I did not do this, the world would collapse. And so everything that we used to allocate time for earlier, be it time for family, time for prayer, time for meditation, time for a friend, time for any or time for a quiet walk, if you will, to refresh yourself, we just don't have the time. So my gift giving is if I'm able to give time to all the nonprofits that I've been serving, I consider that as my biggest gift because I'm not that rich. I wish I was, then I would have proliferated their treasures with giving money in addition to giving my time and my skills. But if I can't give that, at least I should be able to give my time. And what I say by giving my time is to give my skills, give my time for listening, give my time for helping them raise funds and fans, enabling their cause, if you will, because it's we reached that time in our life. We reached that time in the world that if we all stop giving of our time, uh, what will happen to all these screams that we cannot hear?
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh my goodness, how
Yeah,
prophetic. I love that.
that's also very well. Maybe with AI now, we'll just let AI do it, and then we can all just hang out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
Maybe it'll work.
no, that's a good point. That's a good point. But I'll throw another caveat at that too. Just like all things capital, AI will first be used for money making, then money offering, and you will see
Yes.
that come true.
Yes, you are absolutely correct. You are
Yes, you
absolutely
are. Yes, you are.
correct about that.
There's definitely a place for AI, and we can have another conversation about that another day. There's a place for it, but there's also a limit for it.
Well, my grandpa used to say it all the time back when the fax machine came out. And he's like,
Yes.
before we ever had our handheld computers now that we
Yes.
use as phones, right? And he's like,
Yeah.
we plowed with mules and ox and, walking behind the plow, and we planted for our subsistence. And we always found time for church. And we also found time to hang out with our neighbors and our friends. And he said, y'all have all these modern conveniences of which he had no idea what we grew into. Right.
Right.
And he's
right.
like, y'all don't have time for anybody. And he's right. And it's only gotten worse over time. So I think you're dead on about the giving of time. And if we all could find the time to do that, not only would we be richer and more rewarded in our lives, but like you said, those screams that are not heard would be addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already agreed that the world is flat, and we've already agreed that we've reached a time where Scotty beam me up is going to be a reality. But in so much of the interconnected world, how distant are we getting, to the point that y'all use LinkedIn, I use LinkedIn. We even have degrees of separation. First degree of connects, second degree of connects, third degree of
So
connects.
true.
What is this first, second, and third? We are human to human.
Right.
A connection is our DNA. What is this degree of separations? I don't understand. But that is reality, right? That you and I are both living it. So how much worse is that going to get in an interconnected, flat world?
So true.
Great point.
For the audience, you can see why we have asked Viren back twice, and why we will hopefully have him back a lot more.
Thank you for being kind.
Oh goodness, the time coming to a close makes me a little bit sad here, Viren. But I do want to take this, like what you just said about us spending less and less time with each other and how important it is. Well, one of the ways that I think we all show our love and show and spend more time together is a meal. Okay, so we're both foodies. We both love food,
I'm
any
foodie
kind of
too.
food, and we would love to know. Number one, do you like to cook?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I find that meditative. Apart
I
from the
do
fact
too.
that the best chefs in the world are men, it started off again out of necessity. I'm a vegetarian, and I was going to be shipped across nations to the USA. So what am I going to eat if I don't know how to cook? And remember, at that time, being vegetarian was not fashionable.
Right.
So I'm talking about the late 1980s. So I had to learn to cook. In fact, ironically, for a sense of humor, I had roommates who were also from a different part of India who continued to eat pepperoni pizza, thinking pepperoni is pepper, till I got on into that unit and I said, "Do you all realize y'all have been eating meat for the longest amount of time?" And it was a shocker. So
That's
this
great.
is what happens when you don't learn how to cook, and you know
Or read the labels. Okay,
yeah.
so what is your specialty meal to cook?
Lots of things. I Indianize everything. So here, the Chinese food, for example, is very blend. So I basically take noodles and try to create the own ingredient sauces to make it more spicier, so it's not so bland. We take concepts from Taco Bell, for instance, and make Mexican pizza at home, not using the refried beans, but using black beans, which are higher in protein, and you can steam them up and in a pressure cooker, and then just add the seasonings and the sauces to make it. So we basically take existing ideas but homogenize it to make it more protein based, more healing, if you will, because the food you eat is what you become. And
Right.
so, I make pizzas at home. Wouldn't say I make the dough at home, but still, fresh ingredients. And making a salad on top of a pizza bread. So throwing in the arugula, avocados, etc., which again very, very nutritious, very good for the body. So just taking the existing concepts, but differentiating it, making it more acclimatized to our family's values, if you will. Because what we do is what the kids are going to learn. And when they ship to their universities, they're going to cook, and they're going to wonder whether it's easier to drive by McDonald's or try to do this at home. And so far, we've been very lucky. We've been very successful. They repeat what they see.
Good.
Lead by
Oh, I
example,
love
right?
it.
Yeah.
Yes, and I love the vegetarian lifestyle. I'm technically not a vegetarian, but I'm
Yeah.
probably a vegetarian about 90 to 95% of the time. I don't eat very much meat.
Yeah, she's weaned me off too. I was
Right.
always being raised in the South. It was always just meat and potatoes. This is what you did.
True. True.
But Tanya came to my life and slowly started pulling out the meat dishes and replacing them with incredible vegetable dishes that I feel very satisfied with, and I love, and I actually crave. I actually ask her to make it again. So she has weaned me off.
Oh, I could talk to you for hours about why being vegetarian is important. Not because I am one, but I've learned this from people who've been fighting cancers, 2 cancers at a
Yes.
time,
Yes.
and what the bacteria Candida does to your systems, and how does Candida land into your intestines. And most of it is because of meat and the cultures from the animal that you are devouring. Although tasty to the tongue, is doing a lot more different things to the rest of your body. It's just
We would
it's amazing.
definitely agree with you. Yeah,
I can't nod yes strongly enough over here, Viren. Well, this has been another amazing time with you. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts.
Likewise. I'm
just
grateful. I'm grateful
inspire
that
us.
what my belief and my values that I have developed over the years is reaching you, and is making an impression. And that light is bouncing right back at me and making me look so much brighter than I am. So I'm grateful.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time as
Absolutely.
always. Tell the audience how they can get in touch with you if they want to work with you.
Certainly.
That's way.
My email is first initial last name, vmayani141@gmail.com. And they can always call me. I answer the 3 a.m. call as well, 404-392-0252. And they can always find me on LinkedIn, and certainly on your website now with 2 episodes old.
I love it.
And we're very grateful for that. Thank you again, Viren.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ready to change how you're seen and charge what you're worth? If you're not getting enough opportunities to meet with ideal customers, or the prospects you're meeting with just aren't ideal, it's most likely your brand that's holding you back. So if you're a coach, consultant, or expert who is on the rise, you need our ultimate guide to a freedom-based brand. Download it free now at BrandFaceGuide.com.